would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Sparta Board of Education meeting office, 18 Mohawk Ave, as designated by the Board of Education for posting of such notice in a public place. Written notice was emailed on April 10th, 2023 to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, tapintosparta.net, and the Township Clerk specifying the date, time, and the place of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, Joan.
Ms. Collier,
Here.
Ms. McMichael,
Here.
Ms. Sealander,
Here.
Ms. Keeling,
Here.
Mr. Knapp,
Here.
Mr. Palesci,
Here.
Ms. Pitzer, Dr. Serrano, Mr. Morris.
Here. Great, thank you. We're going to now convene into
Second.
favor.
Aye.
Roll call, Joanne?
Ms. Collier,
Here.
Ms. Keeling,
Here.
Mr. Knapp,
Here.
Ms. McMichael,
Here.
Mr. Pelesci,
Here.
Ms. Pitzer,
Here.
Ms. Seelander,
Here.
Dr. Serrano,
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here. Okay, we're going to open up the meeting with the public hearing for the district budget.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are presenting the final budget presentation. If you recall, last month we did the preliminary budget presentation, and the way that it works is the timeline goes that in March, as we did, we present the preliminary budget, we get feedback, we get board approval on the preliminary budget. We then submit that preliminary budget to the county. The county reviews the budget. They make sure that everything is aligned with statute and everything that we're allowed to do. Then the county approves the budget, which they did. And then we come back and continue to fill in the board, continue to answer questions for the board, and then present that final budget to the board. That's what this evening is. It's a public hearing where the board, it'll be recommended to the board to approve this final budget, at which point that becomes the budget for next school year. What you're going to see tonight is very similar to the presentation if you saw the presentation from last month. The numbers are going to be the same, or just about the same in some cases. And it's going to be the same facts and figures as we presented as a preliminary budget, but now I'll present it again as the finalized budget. So in this budget, again, the way that we ran this budget, the way that we created this budget was zero-based budgeting, which means we did not simply just roll over numbers from previous years. We started at zero. We went to building administration and said, instead of telling us what you've been spending in the past or what you had spent in the past, we're going to start you at zero. Let's build up to what you actually need, and that's what a zero-based budgeting is, and that's how it worked, and that's how we ran it this year. In this budget, we continue to fund, maintain, and improve the quality of educational programs. We continue to build upon all the components of the district strategic plan that we've been working on over the past year. We continue to provide professional development opportunities to increase teacher expertise and efficacy. We continue to support the social, emotional, and mental health of the Sparta learning community. We maintain and update our one-to-one Chromebook initiative. And reductions in personnel lines are largely through administrative restructuring and staff attrition. The budget process is what I spoke about as I introduced the budget. We, as an administrative team, we engaged one another. We engaged necessary staff to ascertain and justify resource needs. We had multiple meetings with administration and as well as Board of Education committees and as well as individual or small groups of Board of Education members. Administration revisited staff scheduling, class sizes, and programming goals to determine our staffing. And again, the preliminary budget was approved by the Board of Education in March, and then it was approved by the County Department of Education. In this, well, for next year, you will see that we have capital projects. These capital projects are not going to come out of our capital reserve, but rather they're coming out of the ESIP program. If you recall, the ESIP program is what we introduced last school year, which is the energy savings program coming through the solar agreement that we have. And as a result of the solar savings and the solar agreement that we have and the lease payments that we have, we don't have to go into the capital reserve to run these projects. It actually comes out of the ESIP program. The projects, the capital projects that you see for next year are on the screen. I'm not going to read every individual one to you. You'll see that they are largely the same for each of those buildings, and each of those buildings are the ones that will be affected by the ESIP program. And this presentation will be on the website tomorrow. Into the actual numbers, as I did last month, I would like to start off because we are going to throw a lot of numbers at you. And again, you might be sitting there wondering, what does this actually mean for me as you throw these numbers? So you see what the school tax levy is this year. You see what we propose to increase it for next year, and then what the total tax levy will be for next year. How it affects the average home, the average taxpayer, you can see right there. For the average home in Sparta is now assessed at $371,300. And this proposed budget would affect the tax levy on the average home at $257.93 per year, or $21.49 per month. As I stated last month, we did go above the 2% tax levy in this budget, and I did mention that it was offset by ratables. I got that actual number for you here, that we have the number value of how it was offset, but percentage-wise, the average taxpayer, or the taxpayer, will see a 3.4% in their taxes after the ratable offset. To compare this to last year, the average home last year was at $370,500, slightly less than it is now. And last year's budget affected the average taxpayer $205.15 per year, or $17.10 per month. So you can see the slight increase from last year to this year. Why the increase in taxes? Where does it come from? We had many challenges that we faced when we were balancing this budget, specifically, obviously, increases in expenditures, large increases in expenditures. And you can see just some of the highlights here where we had large increases in expenditures. When you talk about salaries, you had a contractual increase of 2.8%, which equates to approximately $1.2 million on an increase. The 2% tax levy alone wouldn't cover that alone. Health benefits increased from this year's budget to next year's budget, $1.4 million. A general liability insurance, we were instructed to budget 15% for that increase. Our PERS contribution increases 25%, or $250,000. Special education cost increase, $400,000, and transportation continues to increase at a high rate, and you can see the CPI for next year is at 5.86, and between our public and non-public transportation, our transportation costs are going to increase approximately $1 million. You can see, obviously, how we were impacted by these large increases. So as a result of the allowable increases, and where we are with the tax levy, like I said before, like I said last month, it is a 5.8% tax levy increase, offset by ratables, affecting the taxpayer at 3.3%. And I'll allow Ms. Black to discuss how we arrive at that number.
So as Dr. Beck pointed out, the expense side of this budget was a challenge. In order to meet that challenge, several components of revenue were crafted so that we could meet the challenge of this budget. The first one is the local tax levy. A district is allowed to increase their tax levy by 2% without going to voter approval for that. The second item is banked cap. This banked cap is a result of an allowance adjustment for enrollment last year that was not utilized in the previous year, in the current year budget. As a result, we have $1.294 million to use in this current year budget. The next is another enrollment adjustment, and this is another result as it increased enrollment in the district. Sparta has been experiencing increased enrollment in the past several years. The next allowance that's allowed is because of the increase in health care costs. State aid for this district has gone up. We received an increase of approximately $700,000. Budgeted fund balance was used as well. This consisted of budgeted fund balance as well as a surplus from the previous fiscal year 22 budget. There's a withdrawal from maintenance reserve that's being used for $400,000. There's a decrease in federal and state grants, and we've also put miscellaneous revenue in this budget, and that's primarily preschool tuition and interest and facility use.
So by looking at these numbers and looking at the tax levy increase, most school districts would go with 2% and are capped at a 2%. tax levy increase. Ms. Black just outlined how we were able to go above that. For those that say, well, we should stay at 2%, we shouldn't go above the 2% tax levy, you could see what that would do to our budget if you look at the numbers on what those, the added percentages actually equal up to. You're looking at well over $2 million, pushing $3 million. So if we stayed at a 2% tax levy, we would have had to make revisions in our budget to make up for $2 to $3 million. So in addition to the revisions we already had to make, you'll be looking at a $2 to $3 million cut on top of that, and which would obviously affect more staffing and programming. This is just a breakdown of our revenues and where our revenues come from to understand the revenues in our budget. The local tax levy, the state aid, the budgeted fund balance that we're utilizing for next year, the maintenance and cap reserve that we're using for next year, federal and state grants, and miscellaneous. You can see where it's just an outline of where all the revenues come from. You can see that obviously by the pie chart and by the numbers that an overwhelming majority of our budget comes from the local tax levy. Again, we talked about the increase in expenditures before. Just to repeat some of those and to add some of those as well as to what expenditures had gone up and at what rate they have gone up. Again, our salary increase is 3.7%. Our employee benefits went up 14.4%. Our facilities and grounds expenditures have gone up 13.1%. Transportation costs that I mentioned before have gone up 19%. Our regular instruction 2.8%. Special education instruction has gone up 6.4%. And our special education out-of-district tuition has gone up 45%. There was a drastic increase from this year's budget into next year's budget. And with that, I'll turn to the Board of Ed to see if there's any additional questions.
Any questions?
Dr. Beck, I just wanted to make sure, we've talked a lot about the budget, and thank you, Joanne, too, for all the thoughtfulness behind this. As you know, there were, in order to retain student programming, there were cuts that need to be made, and I just want to make sure everybody understands the fundamental why when we have an increase of state aid tied with those double-digit increases across the board, what number, if you'd be willing to share with the public, what number were we looking to, was needed to cut to keep the programming?
To get to the budget that we are now, we had to make revisions in the budget that were, again, also between $2 to $3 million in that range.
Right. So
to get where we are into this budget. And then again, if we were not able to go to those extra tax levies, then it would have been another $2 to $3 million that we would have had to additionally cut out of the budget.
Thank you.
Pushing $3 million, actually.
And then my second question would be just understanding that we have had bank cap to lean on for this year. That was very helpful to offset the tax burden, as well as maintenance reserve. Do you see room within this budget to continue? And we've talked about different ways that we could do that. Just ways that we can continue to be just very mindful of our purchasing to be able to hopefully replenish reserves within this budget.
Yeah, that is our hope, to continue to, even while we are operating in this budget, to continue to watch what we are spending our money on, of course. And we won't have those, as you mentioned, we won't have those funds to dip into next year's budget. We're hoping that this one-time larger increase will right-size the budget, and then we will be looking at your quote-unquote typical increases. Obviously, we're facing some atypical increases in this budget, but we're hoping this would right-size it, and then we would just work on the typical increases.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Beck and Joanne, and thanks for all the time that you've given me, Joanne, setting up camp in your office. I just had a question in terms of capital reserves. We mentioned that briefly last night, and where are we sitting with capital reserves right now?
So capital reserve, after this budget process, is approximately $1.1 million in this district.
Okay.
And maintenance reserve is $13,000 for the district. So
It's concerning, right, to say the least, with the maintenance reserve down that low.
Right. Well, I will say with this ESIP project that is underway, and in the current year budget, there are lease payments against that project. There are many facility projects that will happen, replacement of the boiler, the chillers, the list was there. Two of the middle school roof as well as the high school roof is going to be redone as well this summer. Actually, the high school roof already has started. So that being said, there's approximately $7.8 million in projects that are underway. So that will help with what we have in the long-range facility plan. But yes, the goal is to rebuild that capital reserve if we're able to do it. And the way you do it is if there's, at the end of a fiscal year, if there's surplus, then the Board of Education will decide during the month of June and after the audit as to how much can go into capital reserve or maintenance reserve at the time.
Anyone else have any questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now going to open up the public comment solely for the budget. Public comment at this time will act the same way as we do it as any other public comment. You'll be allotted 3 minutes. Any questions, comments, or concerns may or may not be answered. When you come up, line up, and don't forget to sign up on the sign-up sheet. Yeah, I know that.
Oops. Jenny Derrick, Stop to Sparta. Thank you for the presentation. A few more numbers than last month, so that's helpful. Just a quick question. What exactly is the number realized, the savings realized, or how much had to be cut in staffing? What was the total savings realized? There were a bunch of euphemisms tossed around about explaining what that number is, reducing, revisions, whatever. But what savings was, what cuts were done to staffing, dollar-wise, to get to this budget? Dr. Beck, you mentioned facing some atypical increases. I'm sorry, maybe it was Joanne, I'm sorry. What are the atypical increases other than the out-of-district placements for special ed? Because most of it looks like it's contractual. And so how will we be faced next year when we've used up our caps and our bank cap and so forth, our reserves? Could you just also explain briefly what envelope repair projects are? And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Hi, my name is Kathleen O'Brien, 276 Springbrook Trail, 35-year Sparta resident. I come here as a taxpayer and, as my pin indicates, an amateur cellist. I know there's been a brouhaha in the last 48 hours about the music staffing at the high school. First of all, I wanted to thank the superintendent as a retiree on a fixed income for trying to keep the budget under control, and I don't envy your job in the time of inflation and balancing all the needs of the kids, the taxpayers, seniors. I get that, I get it, but I think in this case, kind of missing the forest for the trees. When I moved here, I was 8.5 months pregnant, and I picked Sparta because of its music department, specifically because it had a string program. I didn't know if I would have a child who wanted to play any instrument. Turned out she played trumpet, but I wanted her to have options. And at the time, Sparta was the only district with a string program. It's really a feather in the cap of the district. It elevates the district. It makes it more desirable. 35 years later, it's now grown into this fabulously successful program, and it is now one of 2 programs, districts in the county. Only Vernon has a string, Sparta and Vernon. And
Ma'am, this is for the budget only. budget comments only. We're not talking about the orchestra or.
Yeah, this is budget hearing.
This is a budget hearing. Yeah,
But,
if you want, we have other public comment options, so.
okay, I
yeah.
thought it was a money thing in the budget.
No,
All
no.
right.
Thank you. We'll get you back up.
Good evening. Sue Soy. I'm a resident. I live at 81 Springbrook Trail. I'm also the president of the Sparta Education Association, and I have a comment rather than a question. I do believe that the first slide in the budget presentation that I think gave the misleading idea that the increases in this budget are due to the increases in salary for staff are completely misleading. These numbers were agreed to 2 years ago and should have been appropriately budgeted for. So the idea that this was some kind of extraordinary increase or something that was a surprise to this board or to the business administrator is completely disingenuous and should not have been presented in the manner that it was. Thank you.
Hi, Caitlin Gagnon, Summit Road. I think why is a very viable question. I appreciate that. I think everyone here, though, is more concerned with who. And before any vote is held on the budget, I think it's only fair to let the community know, and especially our valued teachers and staff know, who is being cut. I understand that programs don't seem to be in jeopardy, but teachers and staff are, and I think we have a right to know what that entails. One other thing I want to say, I appreciate the board members that care to appear as if they're concerned with budget or fiscal responsibility. As long as you're overpaying our attorney, you can't say that. So I can encourage you to revisit that ongoing issue while we continue to pay for his appeals and his ego. Thank you.
Ryan Dumpert, 47 Angelo Drive. I just want to first thank Lauren. The questions you asked tonight, I can see that you care, that the people sitting out here may not completely understand what's happening. And so I see that the questions that you ask are actually in reference to Mr. Beck and Ms. Black so that we can get a better understanding. So I want to thank you for doing that because that does connect us. And Walt, I want to thank you because I know that you did take a large amount of your time to look at this budget. You took a lot of your experience and you applied it to this entire thing, and I hope that at the end we do end up with a budget that helps our students. Thank you.
Could we please keep it down in the audience? Please be respectful for the speakers.
Hi, Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. I didn't wait till the end today, so you can hear from me early. I have a couple of questions based on the budget presentation and on some of the things that I looked at online. The first big question I have is there's no user-friendly budget of a proposed budget that's available to the public online. Typically, that is made available to the public earlier in April, so we can review it. We can look at what the numbers were from last year, what the actual numbers wound up being, and what the proposed numbers are for the next year. That's not available. We do have access to the proposed slides presentation that you presented today, and that was helpful, thank you. But we don't have access to the actual numbers and the actual proposed budget numbers on the website. So I guess my first question is, why is that not available, or am I missing it somewhere? And it is available. It would be very helpful if somebody could point me in the right direction there. Ms. Black, when you spoke, you said that we have seen some substantial increased enrollment. So I guess my second question is, what are our current student enrollment numbers, and what are our anticipated student enrollment numbers for next year? And as a personal sentiment on that, I suppose I'll add in that if our student enrollment numbers are going up, I am unsure how we as a district can afford to lose staff members. If our numbers are going up, that means our classroom sizes will go up on their own if we're not hiring additional staff members, but to be cutting and losing staff members is going to drastically change the makeup of our classrooms in our buildings. So I want to know what we're doing about that. My final question with regard to the budget is, what does the word largely mean? I think it was on your first or second slide, you said that we are largely losing our personnel through attrition. And I know looking through the renewals for our teachers that is not, it's not all. So what it does largely mean to you, there are teachers, very, very highly qualified teachers, excellent educators in this district who are not being renewed next year. It is incredibly heartbreaking to see that, because we are a district that has incredible, fantastic, amazing faculty and staff. And when we lose those people because we didn't budget to have the same number of faculty, if we're losing people through retirement, we have openings, right? So when we lose people because we're not renewing them on top of that, that's very troubling. So I appreciate
Thank you.
an answer to those questions. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Granoff, 4 Woodbine Lane in Sparta. It's my understanding that in an effort to save money, 2 nursing positions could potentially be cut, and I'm having a really difficult time understanding why this is an area that would even be considered for downsizing. The school nurse system that Sparta puts in place to service the students isn't just important to the district, it's everything. You as a super and the board are tasked with supporting teachers and staff members and parents and all of that, but this affects the #1 part of the district population that you're tasked with making decisions in the best interests of, the students. And this is not in the best interest of the students. Taking away those 2 positions would leave us with 1 nurse per building with no coverage for a nurse that gets sick or needs to take a day off, because they do sometimes. And taking away the 2nd nurse at the high school eliminates the floating nurse that would be able to cover other nurses should they need to be out, and also leaves 1 nurse for over 1,000 students. So this means if the middle school nurse needs to take off, a nurse from, say, Helen Morgan would have to leave and maybe deliver allergy medication or whatever. And if that moment a student at Helen Morgan goes into diabetic shock, what is the plan for that? And is it worth to save whatever money you think you're going to save? And if before you say you have a vendor in place, vendors are not school nurses. We have school nurses, and we should retain them and even build on that network. I shouldn't have to mention how dangerous this is to any of you. Dr. Beck, you're a superintendent, so you should just know better. But board members, you are all parents with parents in various schools, and I believe even one of you is a nurse. If the risk of something happening to your own child or another child in the district is not enough for you to question this, then please consider the liability. As part of the Board of Education of 9, you'd be responsible. You personally would be named in any lawsuit or news story or related in any incident, regardless if you voted no and everyone else voted yes. This goes through, you are part of the vote. So please consider how much money is being saved when the consequences are so high. You could tell me right now that you'd save $3 million, and I would still say it's not worth it. And I have fairly healthy children with no chronic issues or daily medication. If I was a parent of a chronically ill child in the school district, I'd be jumping up and down on this line right now.
1 minute.
So my question is, by eliminating these positions, what exactly are you gaining? Finally, I don't believe any of our administrators would sign off on this plan. At a building level, or those in the central office that have been here for respectfully much longer than you, Dr. Beck, you keep saying that you worked with them closely to develop this plan, and I just flat out don't believe that that's true. Not based on the level of dedication to our students that I've seen them display, and I've never worked closely with them. I've only been here as a parent, but I just don't think that that's accurate. From where I sit, and according to the auditor that reviews our finances every year, who gave her presentation in January, Sparta spent more in 2022 than in the past, and she's been doing our books for over 10 to 15 years. Dr. Beck, you and Ron Smith left us broke. It's your fault, and it's your job to fix it, but this is not the way. You need to find another way that does not compromise the health and safety of my children and everyone else's in this room. Good luck.
Okay, anyone else? Motion to close public comment.
Motion.
Craig, second.
Second.
Leanne, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, you got no recognition? Nothing, right? Okay.
Do the vote on the resolution.
Yep. Okay. Joanne, can we get a roll call on,
Somebody's got to move it first. Are there any responses you want to give?
yeah.
Is there anything you can answer or not?
I mean, Jenny's questions, we would have to get those actual numbers for you. I wouldn't want to give them to you right in front of people that I don't have the accurate numbers in front of me. So we can get back to you, Jenny. We can get back to Jenny's questions as they are detailed, and I don't have those numbers. We don't have those exact numbers in front of. Yeah, transportation was a larger increase than we've seen in the past. And the health insurance increase was larger. And we're hoping that those are not typical. The music staffing is staying the same. Increases in salaries, being accused of being inaccurate. I'm just delivering information as to how the budget increased. And that's not just teacher salaries. I'm not picking on teachers. Everybody's salaries increase. Administrators, support staff. Not blaming the teachers as if that's what was being implied. I'm just showing where an increase took place. Who the staff members are, I would not be able to, of course, speak about personnel in public, but some staff members are being non-renewed for performance purposes. The user-friendly budget does not get posted until 48 hours after it is board approved. The current student enrollment numbers we can get for you. And in reference to Jen Grana, accusing me of not being, I guess, honest when I say I consulted with the administration, that's just simply not true.
The public hearing's over, ma'am.
I'm just asking a question. I'm genuinely confused as to why someone could talk about the proposed cut of the nurses by.
It was budget related.
Right, but there was a proposed cut in the music department.
No, there wasn't.
Answered my question.
Okay, there was no proposed cut in the music department. There was a rumor, yes, but it was a false rumor.
So Mrs. Bach was not told that her position would be replaced.
No.
And we really
It's-
can't.
It's not
ma'am.
something we can talk about right now, but I'm going to let you know, and everyone in the room, everything you saw on social media was a rumor. A notice was put out. There's nothing to worry about.
And the board can't, ma'am?
Ma'am, I cannot speak about any conversations between administration and
Yeah, the board
teachers.
can't discuss publicly personnel issues and names. You're certainly welcome to get up and say what's on your mind, but we can't discuss individual staff members.
You can at a later
We got
date.
2 more public comment sessions. We have 2 public comments. We have one on agenda items only, still coming up, and we also have public comments on anything else. So
If you're here at the time for public comment, I'll call you up to.
Yes, that's right.
No, I already did. Okay. I get a motion to move items 4.1 through 4.3 of the public hearing.
Motion.
Craig, second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, Joanne?
So sorry.
Oh, okay.
Would it be appropriate to discuss now or along with my vote? Why I'm voting? Now? I'm so sorry. I was asking a procedural question about something. About the budget.
So, motion second, discussion.
Yeah, do you have,
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to thank Dr. Beck and Ms. Black because I spent many hours in your office, Joanne. I I should have brought you coffee more often. And I appreciate the thorough work that you've done with what you've, our current circumstances. I went line by line, and I was looking and digging for areas where I thought we could find more money and places to cut and save. I do share concerns about cuts to staffing. I share concerns about the nurses being cut. It's a very, very real concern. It's not something that I take lightly. And that's it for now. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion?
Would it be appropriate, I know the public asked, to discuss the plan with only having one nurse in the building? Like, will it be a floater situation? Will it be a substitute situation?
When I asked administration what staff we might be able to, where we might be able to make revisions or cuts, and I specifically asked, I asked myself on the administrative level and on other levels, can we revert back to where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago in that case? And that's when both of these nurses were added, and I was told that, namely at the high school, that they could function as such, as it had in the past.
Right.
Function well, as it had in the past.
Any other discussion? All right, Joanne, roll call.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
No.
Mr. Knapp?
No.
Ms. McMichael?
No.
Mr. Pelesci?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
No.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, moving on.
That carried, right? That was 5-4?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion to move item 8.1, approval of the minutes. Joanne? Motion first.
Motion.
Craig?
Second.
Leanne? Joanne?
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
He stepped.
Oh, yeah.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pelesci?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay. Moving on, item number 9, superintendent's report. During the superintendent's report, we're also going to touch on the student representatives report, who are not here this evening.
Yeah, I'll start with the student representative report. It was shared with me by Ms. DeLucia. Upcoming events for student council, planning a spring pep rally in May in between the AP and NJSLA testing, planning our last literary partnership activity with the Alpine students on May 14th. Prom is June 8th for juniors and seniors. Elections applications for next school year will be going out soon. Take Your Child to Work Day was a success. And Remy Coleman, who is the Student Council Secretary, was the SHS recipient of the Caring Award and was celebrated at a county luncheon early this week. That was the student report. Moving on to the superintendent report. The district calendar revisions on this evening's agenda recommended for approval is the finalized district calendar for the current school year, which includes 2 unused snow days that have turned into quote-unquote give-back days. After consulting with all of the buildings and sifting through the countless blackout dates that could not be utilized as give-back days, it has been determined that Tuesday, May 30th, which extends a Memorial Day weekend, and Monday, June 12th, would be the best days for those snow days, give-back days. A message will be sent to the community informing them of these dates once they are board-approved. Helen Morgan archery update. In their first year of existence, the HMS archery team won the NASP Bullseye State Championship, We had the first and second place girls and second and third place boys for our division, with a good number of males and females, top 10 finishes as well. For the girls, Kylie Snyder was first place elementary, and Leah Solander was second place elementary. And for the boys, Landon Kimball was second place elementary, and Holden Brown was third place elementary. Our team score places us currently 135th out of 766 elementary schools in the country. And the team has qualified for the national championship, which will take place in Kentucky. I'd also like to thank and recognize Mr. Agnar, Nurse Lil, Ms. Cannon, Mr. Markovich, and countless other staff and parent supporters who have assisted with the success of this program. Heart Safe designations. On March 20th, each of our schools earned Heart Safe School designation through Project Adam. This designation means that each of our schools has met the organization's requirement for exemplary work to prepare and protect students, staff, and visitors in the event of a cardiac emergency. I would like to thank Mr. Gregory and all of our school nurses for their hard work in fulfilling these requirements. And I would also like to thank Alexa Griffin, who is the nurse of the Sparta Middle School, for taking the lead on this project. Academic Bowl has returned. Recently, our Sparta Middle School students competed in the Sussex County Academic Bowl, which was the first time the competition took place since it was interrupted by COVID. 2 teams entered from the middle school, and I'm proud to announce that one of them took home the championship trophy, which was our first since 2016. That team consisted of Logan Fadil, Jake Hamilton, Charles Scholl, Sarah Schwartz, and Victoria Tynes. Also, congratulations and thank you to their advisor, who is Mr. Kopp. Also on March 20th, our district hosted the Sussex County School Boards Association program known as 8th Grade Dialogue. This is an event that invites one 8th grade student from each district in the county to attend a forum where the Sussex County School Boards Association engages them in productive dialogue pertaining to their experiences in school districts across our county. Sarah Schwartz proudly represented our district and Sparta Middle School at this event. On Friday, April 21st, this past Friday, the Sussex County Superintendent's Association hosted a luncheon where one student from each school district in Sussex County was honored for their exemplary success in academics, athletics, participation in school activities, and community service. Each student is nominated from the highest grade level in their district. Obviously, ours is a senior. This year, our district was proudly represented by Ariana Puleo. Ariana is a well-rounded student who plans to attend Ohio State University next year to major in chemistry. I've spoken about robotics multiple times in the past. Another robotics update. In addition to the continued success of our robotics team members, I would like to recognize their advisor this evening. Mark Miola has been nominated for the State and National Air and Space Force Association STEM Teacher of the Year recognition. Teen Arts, congratulations to the following Sparta High School students who placed in the Sussex County Teen Arts Festival and have moved on to the New Jersey State Teen Arts Festival. Delaney Ekman, Millen Dewberry, Ashley Potter, Kimberly Bellamy, and Caitlin Siak, all qualified for the State Teen Arts Festival. On Tuesday evening, our district was very fortunate to be recognized by the Sparta Town Council through 2 separate proclamations. The first proclamation was for our continued work with our special needs population through National Autism Acceptance Month. I'd like to thank Ms. Schock and Ms. Highland, who joined me in receiving this proclamation and speaking on behalf of our district. The second proclamation was pertaining to our district's partnership, along with other agencies, with Town Council through the Municipal Alliance, specifically in this case to raise awareness regarding alcohol abuse. I said it that evening, and I will say it again, that we are very fortunate to live and work in a community where the partnership, support, and collaboration between the school district and the town council is consistently focused on doing what is best for our students and the school community. Our Align program continues to excel and be recognized. In addition to our Align program being featured in the New Jersey Department of Education's Mental Health Resource Guide a few months ago, more recently, our Align program has received additional statewide recognition as we were invited to present our Align program at the statewide ESSER Roundtable, and I thank Dr. Esposito for presenting on our behalf there. And also our Align program was featured in the NJSBA, which is the School Boards Association School Leader magazine. Honoring the retirees that are on the agenda this evening, we have Mary Clark, who is the secretary at Sparta Middle School, who served our district for 21 years. And And Tim Labrizzi, who is a school counselor at Sparta High School, who has served our district for 17 years. On April 3rd, Ms. Rossi, Dr. Wilson, and Mr. Rivers met with professors from Centenary University to develop plans for an internal review board pilot program, IRB program. Under the guidance of Centenary's Dean of Education and Humanities, Sparta High School will implement an IRB, internal review board, to help students make safe and informed research decisions. This board will primarily support the research of students in biomedical engineering in our STEM Academy, and AP Research, which is in the Humanities Academy, which I had the pleasure of watching some presentations just this week in AP Research. In May, Dr. Tim Fredericks and Dr. Bill Karpluk from Centenary University will visit Sparta High School to speak with students about the ethical frameworks that guide the research process. These students will engage with the IRB in the fall as they begin designing independent research projects for their respective academies' capstone course. This is Centenary's first venture working with a school district, and obviously our first venture as a school district working with a university for IRB, so it's a very big deal. This initiative is a direct result of our student board advisory group working together on the suggestions from our students and acting on their request in the best interest of moving our program offerings forward. I know some of those students are here this evening, and thank you for pushing us toward and working with us toward working with Centenary University on the IRB. Thank you. Alcohol Awareness Month. I am excited to announce the winners of our 2023 Alcohol Awareness Youth PSA Contest, which was titled Every Day is a Good Day, Alcohol Free. 11 Sussex County schools had winning entries. There were over 150 submissions throughout the county. The 10 poster winners were featured in the New Jersey Herald more recently in school section in April. I'm proud to announce that the Public Service Announcement Contest winners for 2023 from Sparta are Brielle Lassard from Sparta Middle School and Bryn Lassard from Helen Morgan School. And lastly, some athletic recognitions. Our NJAC Ski Racing All-Conference First Team Girls, Madison Campisi and Aubrey Zimmerman. First Team Boys, Kana Pusanuri and Drew Young. Second Team Boys, James Cressman and George Flint. And Rodney Califati was the Ski Coach of the Year. Two milestones in girls lacrosse. We had Leah Moore and Uma Kowalski both scoring their 100th goals very recently. And last and certainly not least, HWS boys tennis. Sparta High School won their first championship, HWS championship in school history. Thomas Shotland was first singles champ and tourney MVP. Robbie Makuski was the second singles champ. Andrew Young was the third singles champ. Ian Yip and Graham Mahoney were the first doubles champ. So congratulations to the boys tennis team. And I will turn it over to Ms. Rossi, who has some very new news to share from today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to share this exciting news with you tonight. We just learned this afternoon that after a comprehensive application process containing a large pool of applicants, Sparta Township School District has been selected to move forward with the New Jersey Tiered System of Supports Early Reading Grant. This grant is a multi-year partnership between the New Jersey Department of Education and Rutgers University. The goal of this grant is focused on enhancing the effectiveness of reading interventions available for all students in grades K through 3. The literacy team that made this all possible was led by Marie Parisi and supported by a highly intelligent group of professionals, including teachers and administrators who are passionate about supporting student learning. It is an absolute honor to collaborate with such dedicated individuals, and this is just one example of the many amazing accomplishments that our staff members continue to achieve in the name of serving students. Congratulations, and thank you so much for your continued commitment to our school district.
Okay, moving on. I need a motion to move 12.1, approval of the HIB report.
Motion.
Craig, second.
Second.
Wendy. Roll call, Joanne?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pelesci?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Joanne, we have any communications? No? Okay, delegate and liaison reports. Does anybody have anything?
As Matt mentioned, we attended the 8th grade dialogue as part of the Sussex County School Boards, and it was a great event hosted at Sparta High School. And I just want to also thank Sarah Schwartz for representing us from the middle school. She gave very thoughtful comments about just what she appreciated about her education here, her teachers, and spoke to the involvement of the parents and our community being connected. And it struck me tonight as we're going through a budget and we're making hard decisions together that, I think as an 8th grader, she captured the spirit of Sparta very well, that it's a commitment to education and high involvement of parents, showing up and being involved with our educational system. So that was a great event. I did attend the school board spring symposium, and I will share the PowerPoints that I have from there. There was some good conversations with other districts regarding bond referendum communication, as that might be something that we are considering as we continue our studies on potentially building a new school, and how the community would have to come together around that. So I'll be sharing that with you as well.
Thank you, Lauren. Anybody else? Okay, moving on. We're now going to open up public comment number 2 for action items only. Public comments are invited on matters pertaining to action items only at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate. For the record, each participant will be given 3 minutes to speak on comments after the conclusion. Oh, sorry, I skipped a line. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board or administrator may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of public participation.
Hello, Dana Galino, 26 Valley View Trail. Earlier this week, the Sparta BOE, represented by Mr. Zittimer, lost yet another case in which it was found that...
Is this an action item?
Yeah, it's about Oprah.
It's not an action item.
Oh,
We don't
it's
vote on-
about
The board doesn't vote on those.
renewals. Teacher renewals? Can we use that one?
No.
Okay, great. Earlier this week, the Sparta BOE, represented by Mr. Zittimer, lost yet another
Can
state
you
case.
refer, which item on the agenda you're referring to? What renewals? Renewals is an action item. Are you talking about staff renewals?
Yes.
Oh, which item?
Do you want me to go pull it up? Does anybody
You're
have
talking about
the
a GRC
agenda?
case, and that's not an action item.
I'm sorry, what?
You're talking about a GRC case?
Yes, so it all ties in. I
But that's not an
promise.
action item.
It starts with that, and then it goes to renewals. It has to do with you and your contract and
My
renewals.
contract's not on the agenda
It's not on the
tonight.
agenda.
But it has to do with renewals. I'm going to come up here no matter what. It has to do with renewals. You don't know it because I haven't said it. It has to do with renewals.
Okay, but you're starting with him.
Do you
He's
want me
not-
to switch the paragraphs around so I start with renewals?
As long as you don't finish with him, yeah.
No, you can't. No, that's not how it
But
works,
he's
Kurt.
not-
No.
He's not on the agenda.
The only point is, this section of the agenda, let me just finish, and then we'll turn the mic back to you. This section of the agenda is on agenda items, action items only. If your comments relate to an action item, that's terrific.
All right,
And
so
if they
I'll go-
don't, my only point is if they don't, we have another public participation section on anything else.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, there we go.
I'm going to talk about, well, let's see, where was the renewals? Superintendent report, that's in there. And then you said Oprah request. No, last time I came up, we can pull up the tape, and I asked if I could talk about Oprah request in the first public session, and you told me yes. This month, what's the difference?
We don't vote on action items, so if
Why could I talk about it, though, last month in
Well, if you-
public
let me-
session?
Let me answer your question. If you were
Okay.
allowed to speak on Oprah's, it was a mistake. We'll get it right this time. We're only allowing public comment on things the board is voting on. That's what Mr. Morris means when he says action item. So if it's not an item we're
Okay.
voting on, then save it for the next public participation. That's all.
All right, so if it's renewals,
Renewals is being voted on, yes.
so can I say the whole speech because it all ties in? Or should I don't want to break it up. It all kind of pulls it together.
Then why don't you just wait till the last one?
No, because I'm afraid you're going to vote on things that I want to talk about.
Then, yeah,
So how about you let me do it, because you've done it in the past. I've talked about Oprah in public session number 1 probably 12 times. I don't know why you're changing the rules right now.
I don't recall what you said last meeting.
I'm talking to him.
I know. I'm
Okay,
talking- and I'm
I've
talking
talked
to you.
about Oprah requests every single time that I've attended the meeting.
Okay. Well, that was a mistake. It should have been under the
12
second.
times?
It should have been on the second public participation.
Okay,
So if you're talking about staff renewals, that would be appropriate to just speak about now, absolutely.
how about you let me just read it, and you can disregard anything that you don't want to listen to.
If it has to do with an action item, yes.
Perfect. I'm just going to
If
go
it
on.
doesn't have to do with an action item, we ask that you save it for the second public participation. There are rules that everybody should follow, that's all. Yeah.
Go ahead, I'll stop you if not. That's fine.
I'll probably appeal it anyway.
Go,
Okay.
It's fine. Won't be surprised.
Okay. Great. We're on the same page. All right, let's start the clock. Earlier this week, the Sparta BOE, represented by Mr. Zittimer, lost yet another state case in which it was found that public school documents were illegally withheld from parents. This is now the second instance in the same school year where Mr. Zittimer instructed our business office to unlawfully withhold documents, leaving parents with no choice but to ask the state to get involved. It's also the second time he's lost. This ineptitude is what is causing frivolous spending, and not a handful of women who steal $80K from our educators and kids with Oprah requests, which is a direct quote from a board member's girlfriend. Since January, we've witnessed our new board embroil themselves in matters that they don't understand, like lessons plans, to decisions that serve personal agendas, like banning books, to gaslighting the public despite recorded meetings, to inexplicable questions like, does this operating budget contain money to build a new school? We aren't asking you to all get PhDs in education, but a basic knowledge of your role would serve this district well. If you are going to vote down a budget with no explanation after you've had ample time to address the parts you are unsatisfied with, the message you are sending is that you don't actually wish to work together to positively serve this district. You're just trying to be disruptive, pander to your supporters, and waste our time. As an aside, every time you violate the code of ethics, Mr. Zittimer is going to tell you that you're not. And that is because he gives bad advice so that he can then make more money when he has to represent you in the legal case that he will probably lose. I can't imagine that you all haven't figured that out yet. Word is that you're going to once again vote against the superintendent's staff renewal recommendations. We all remember when this happened last year with Mr. Kircher, the esteemed educator that a sitting board member referred to as us being stuck with. Before you go ahead and violate the terms of your role and put our students last once again by eliminating yet another valued staff member for no good reason, please think back to the efforts put forward by the public to get Mr. Kircher reinstated. This town is filled with confident, educated, and intelligent people who actually believe our students should come first. We will not be bullied into silence, and we will not sit back while you demonstrate self-interest, decision-making, and unprofessionalism. You can hit me at a school fundraiser all you want, but you have made a commitment to my kids in this district, and whether or not you like it, I'm holding you accountable every step of the way. Stop administering this district. Bad words in a book hurt no one. Lessons plans don't cause transgenderism. You need to pass a referendum to get the money for a new school. Vote in favor of keeping Tara Rossi. And for the love of God, do not renew Mr. Zittimer's contract next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to respond to that. Can I? I'll wait till the end.
I'll wait till the end. Anyone else?
Do you want me to respond to the Ghost Boys thing or not? No.
I'm just speaking with reference to the calendar. I saw that there were 2 extra days. I was disappointed to see that Juneteenth was not viewed as a day that would be celebrated. To have the 2 extra days, to have the 12th off, I don't know if that is a blackout day, but I hope in the future it will not be viewed as a blackout day. It is a state holiday, it is a federal holiday, and it is absolutely something that should be considered. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Kraus. I teach French and Spanish at the middle school, and I live in Rockaway, New Jersey, 26 Ann Street. It's down there, I promise. Cuts leave wounds, and losing Kristen Vandenberg would cut deep indeed. Kristen is a powerhouse of warmth and light in our middle school. She is that for learners and for colleagues the same. I am biased. She's my next door neighbor in the middle school. But that's really put me in a position to witness the enormous creative energy that she invests in designing learning experiences for kids and morale boosters for all of us who are on the staff. She never skimps on the kinds of small details that delight her students, from the outfit she dons to show her spirit or reflect the theme of the day, to the comfy layout and furnishings of her classroom. It's the kind of place we all wish we'd been if we were kids. She's the kind of teacher we wish we all had had. SEL has become a trendy acronym, but what really works? Showing students every day what caring looks like and purposefully building a community of learners. I spoke with some of Kristen's current and former students this week. It's a few short interviews, and many of them were past students of the marking period who had cited Kristen as their primary influence or a big inspiration. I remember a principal once saying to me that one of the marks of a truly great school is that kids run in at the same rate that they run out. And I can tell you that kids really rush to get to Kristen's classroom each day. They want to know what she has in store for them. Her kids talk a lot about voice and choice. She will give them opportunities to create a podcast instead of writing. And she's always seeking out student voices. They laughed as they were describing these whimsical, start of the class writing prompts that actually get the kids writing. They were writing creatively. A lot of them were eager to talk about something that's become kind of a Vandenberg hallmark, and that is these first chapter Fridays, where she'll read the first chapter of a book, and a lot of times get the kids interested, and they vote at the end to see whether they want to continue the book. A lot of them do so on their own. One student said to me, I never thought of myself as a mystery reader until that first chapter Friday where I got to hear it, and she has been reading mystery books ever since. It all made me excited to go to class, is what one student said to me. And that's period one. So anyone who teaches period one, you know how tough it is to kind of extract thought and expression out of those kids, the very groggy minds at that point. It's been her personality that attracts so many kids to the student council. I heard that over and over again. She invests so much time. Is that the time, or is that 1 minute?
That's the time.
That's the whole thing?
Yes.
Just really quick, she also shares a lot of caring for her colleagues. She is so inspirational to all of us, do all these extra programs
Sir,
that keeps us bonded.
We thank you. It's time's up. Thank you.
So I hope that...
Hi, Juliet Sanchez, 122 Summit Road. And I just want to say thank you so much for talking about the research program, the IRB, and thank you so much to everyone who talked to us and worked on it for getting us that IRB for the future years. I think that's awesome. And thank you so much to Marissa Rossi, who did so much for that. And also just thank you to all of our teachers who help us so much with all these type of things, and especially in light of the renewals and tenure. I hope that, turnover is really difficult for students, and I'd hope to see a lot of these same amazing staff and administrators who we know so well, who work with us so much, get to stay in the next years and help us through and keep going with that. So thank you, that's it.
Sorry. Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. I too want to speak about the incredible and amazing ELA teacher that Mr. Kraus spoke of just a few minutes ago. Both of my kids had the opportunity to have this teacher, and there are, I think I counted 6 teachers here today who both of my kids or one of my kids has had in their educational experience here in Sparta. And I don't think any of them would disagree with the statement that my kids are math and science kids. They excel in a lot of things, but they truly thrive in math and science. And that was until their 7th grade ELA experience. This teacher made such an impact on their educational careers, and really, really set a love of learning, of writing, of reading, of thinking in a new and different way for both of my kids. I am heartbroken at the loss of this staff member in the district because she's not being renewed because of budgetary concerns. Any district would be so fortunate to have her, but every parent in Sparta should be so saddened by the fact that their kids will not have an opportunity to have her. And I don't know at this point with your budget if there is a way to keep her in this district, but any and every effort that you could make to do so really, really is a huge, huge, wonderful thing for the students of Sparta.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'll just say my son's at rehearsal right now, but he is planning on coming to speak about her. He's in 7th grade. He's in her current class of students because she has made such a difference in his life. And unfortunately, he's in Morristown, and I don't think he's going to get here before this vote takes place today. And if he doesn't, he'll come and speak in the next public participation. But you should know the type of teacher that is going to be walking away from this district and what she looks like to the students. So I just ask you to consider that today. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Granat for Woodbine Lane. I just wanted to take a minute to also support the renewal of Tara Rossi, just because it's on the agenda and you never know. I feel like Ms. Hamilton's comments kind of made me think that in the past couple of years, there's been too many times during the renewal process where somebody said, I'm so sad that my son, daughter won't have that person and won't have the opportunity to have that person. And I really hope that you take that into consideration when there are non-renewals and renewals, that there are staff members that are really, really, whether they're non-tenured or the last man on the totem pole or whatever, they are really, really effective at what they do. And that is what we need right now. As far as Ms. Rossi is concerned, I just wanted to speak on her behalf because I feel that now also more than ever, we need people that know Sparta and that know the district and know what it needs and what the direction it's going and should look like. And I really believe that Ms. Rossi knows that. I think she has been one of the most transparent administrators we've had, and thorough, and very explanatory about everything that she works on. She entertains every idea. I feel like you all know that, and is open to many, many suggestions and all the feedback that comes with her role. And I know that encompasses a lot of time. So I just ask that when you're considering her renewal, you think about how her time in the district has been very robust and very productive. Whether you agreed with her every time or not, you have to admit that she is a hard worker, and I think she knows what's best for the students. So I hope that you consider that on your vote. Thank you.
I figured I would come up because apparently you need to be the name Jen all in a row. But Jen Rogoff, 1 Millstone Court, Sparta. Just looking at another question regarding the calendar, and I do believe that you stated that it was May 30th was going to be one of those give back days, and that is one of the dates of the Teen Arts Festival that our students have already competed and qualified for. So I just want to ensure that the students, if it's not a school day, will be transported and supervised since they've already qualified for those events. Thank you.
You take it out.
Hi, my name is Jagger Nelson, and I live in Sparta, New Jersey. I would just like to come up here and say some nice things about Mrs. Vandenberg, because as one of her students, I found her as someone who became a huge influence in my reading and writing life. I was never really one who was interested in reading. I never found any entertainment in it. But to add on what Mr. Krause said, she held First Chapter Fridays every Friday, and it ended up becoming something that had a huge impact on me as an individual. It sparked an interest in reading that I never had before. And as far as writing goes, she would start every class with a writing prompt that, even though it was such a small part of the class, ended up becoming like a big thing for me. And since I have had those start to be an everyday occurrence, it became a really important thing to me. And it started an interest in writing for me that I have now pursued. And I have been writing at least a small thing daily since then. And I would say a lot of that is because of her, and that she had a huge impact on me as a teacher. So yeah, thank you for listening to what I had to say.
I just want to say something real quick. Thank you for getting up, Jagger, and talking. I know it's really not easy to do, so I appreciate that you were brave enough to do that.
I agree.
Well done.
Okay. Ryan Dumpert, 47 Angelo Drive. I just wanted to come up and speak on behalf of my son, who told me that some of his fellow classmates would be speaking on behalf of Miss Van Verk tonight. I can say a similar story on the reading. My son basically played with sticks and rocks and did not want to read ever. I just declared him a typical boy. But after she gave him some really interesting books, I can't remember the exact books they were, Susan Collins, yes. He actually read them, and I believe that there were nights where he didn't actually watch TV, and I would see him reading them. Now that is, in my opinion, growing up the way I did, that is not a normal occurrence. So this teacher definitely has something special. And I hope that you vote for her. Thank you.
So anybody else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Kate Fresso. I live on Woodlawn Road. Sorry, I ran in here. I just got home from work. My son came with me. And I was listening to this YouTube live stream with him in the car because I didn't make it here in time. And I wasn't going to get up and talk, but when he heard about Kristen Vandenberg, he was like, what? He's in 6th grade. I've never requested a teacher in all this time, and I was going to request her because he wanted to have her, so he asked me to come and speak. So I'm speaking in support of her. Thank you.
Sasha Nelson. I live in Sparta. This is just going back to the nurses. I'm a student that has life-threatening food allergies, and I have chronic migraines, and I'm someone that goes to the nurse a lot. For me, especially when I was younger, on the days where there was not a nurse in the building, it wasn't possible for me to go to school just because I could die. And, it's just the thought of not having a nurse in the building. For someone like me, it's scary. It's still scary. I'm not able to function without being healthy. And for someone like me and many other students out there, the nurse is a fundamental part of my education. And it just should be a priority because not everybody needs it as much as I do, but everyone needs the school nurse. And it would be crazy to say that we don't, but especially for someone in my position, it's just been a really important part of my education, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Kaya Canales. Just here to give my support to Tara Rossi and her contract renewal. Thank you.
That's me.
Is he going to say that? Is he going to
Thank
say
you.
that?
Alicia Amiel, and most of you will know it as Emile, but 37 Camelot Road, and I am here to support Tara Rossi. And I would like that anybody else in the audience who is here to support Tara Rossi would please stand and show your support.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. My husband is absolutely mortified from home right now as I can't fix the microphone. Okay. Also want to express my support for Tara Rossi, and I have 2 points to make on that. Number one, I kindly ask the board not to surprise us with any motions tonight like you have at every meeting since January. If you're going to do anything, make sure that you're transparent with the community that all just pretty much unanimously stood in support of Tara. Make sure we know what's happening. The other thing I'll say is I know that the ship has already sailed. The budget was approved, and it seems like Ms. Vandenberg was already advised that she will be let go. But if it's a matter of the budget, I have a great solution. When you have an unethical attorney providing poor legal advice and also providing confidential emails to equally unethical board members, that's problematic. And it costs us a lot of money as a district. So go get them, finance people. Let's find the money to keep Ms. Vandenberg on. And I start by looking right next to you all. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to close. Walter, second.
Second.
Christina, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on with the agenda.
Oh, I can comment on the
yes.
two comments on the calendar. Dr. Lewis, yes, Juneteenth was one of the days looked at when we were looking at doing give back days. Unfortunately, it's right in the middle of final exams week. That's why it was one of the key blackout dates. And May 30th, New Jersey Teen Arts, again, pretty much every date was a blackout date, quite honestly. But we are working, the high school administration is working with the high school staff to figure out how we can staff that and still give, whether it be compensation or time or whatever it may be for those advisors. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to move personnel and policy 16.1 to 16.28?
Motion?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Lauren, thank you. Discussion?
Quick question about the nurse. I know the budget's already passed, but if we move back to that model and it's a complete disaster, is there any flexibility for us to fix it?
If that were the case, and it became a need, it would be just as much of a need, proven need as anything else that pops up in the budget that is determined to be necessary, so yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, we get a roll call, Joanne?
Mr. Morse?
Yes?
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pelleggi?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Moving to 17, curriculum. Motion to move 17.1 to 17.8.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Second,
Second.
Christina, discussion. Joanne, roll call, please.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Pelleggi?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving to finance. Motion to move 18.1 to 18.9.
Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Leanne. Discussion. Roll call, Joanne.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Pelleggi?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. No to 18.6. Got to stay consistent, people. Okay, moving on to operations. Motion to move 19.1.
Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Roll call, Joanne.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Pelleggi?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving to 20.1, old business.
I'm
I
not.
don't have anyone, anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this would fall under old business since we obviously just voted on it. But I guess if we could, I know the budget's super tight and, there are a lot of hard decisions that had to be made and everybody put a lot of work into the budget. But if there are, and again, we can never make any promises, but if there are areas that we might be able to look at to potentially attempt to address some of the comments that were brought up during public comment. I think we'd all appreciate maybe just one more look to see if it is possible. And again, you all spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of time going through it, but if there's anything that could potentially be uncovered, I think it might be worth one more look if it's okay.
Thank you. I also second Craig's concern on that.
I agree as well.
I agree.
Same.
Full support.
Any other old business?
Yes. At the last meeting, I asked about possibly getting.
Your mic
I'm
is on?
sorry. At the previous meeting, I asked about looking into waivers for classroom sizes so we can try and come up with a short-term accommodation for the overcrowding in Alpine. And I would like to know if that was, addressed at all.
Yeah, we still have not received official word back from.
Okay, all right. But we are working on it. Okay, great, thank you.
I just want to say thank you for producing the list of all of the celebrations that we do in each of the schools for the different awareness months and celebrating of Heritage Months that was not on the website. So I wanted to see if we could possibly have that complete list put onto our district website if possible.
I don't see it being an issue. Do you? No? Good answer. Any other old business?
Oh.
New.
One additional item, well, I guess it might fall under new. Dr. Beck, we talked about potentially as an area where we might be able to recover some funds could be the fact that, we are Google org, obviously, with our one-to-one Chromebook initiative, but due to state requirements of carrying Microsoft 365 software, much of which is redundant, right? You can use Google Sheets versus Excel, but the state does require us to be able to submit Microsoft documents. And I guess I'd just be curious if there's any movement in terms of the number of seats, because it was a large expenditure item, comparatively in cost. And if we could reduce that to potentially essential staff, understanding that some people love Excel, and I would be asking them to move to Sheets or whatever like that, but I would love to see that entertained, because I think that could be an area where we could find some funds.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much I would say, but definitely worth looking into again.
Okay, moving on to new business. I have a settlement matter I need to read. Resolve that the board approve the settlement in the matter captioned Eric Nathaniel Gordon versus the Board of Education of the Township of Sparta, Sussex County, OAI docket number EDU 00056-23, in accordance with the terms and conditions therein. And be it further resolved that the business administrator and/or the board president is authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the board. Thank you.
Need a second.
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 Discussion? Anybody? Roll call. Okay, roll call, Joanne?
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes?
Mr. Pelesci?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Ms. Seelander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
And Mr. Morris?
Yes. Any other new business?
Kurt, I just want to bring up the archery from Helen Morgan. I know our students are going to the national competition, and I would just want to make sure that we're cognizant that, I know we do support the advisors as we do in the middle school and elementary schools. The staff, students, and the parents work very hard to fundraise for those advisors, to support them, to attend the national competition. And so I just want to make sure that for future competitions, we keep that in mind and support them just as we support every other, middle school and high school sport.
Also for robotics in the middle school too, which is new this year.
Yes, with new programs that find immediate success, we find ways to fund them and then try to figure out how to get it back into the budget as a regular occurrence as we predict our students to continue to excel, as what happened in robotics before and appears to be happening in archery and middle school robotics.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to public comment number three. Public comment period to invite all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, group affiliation, appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of public participation.
Jennifer Graniff, 4 Woodbine Lane. So I'm really grateful that the board members have expressed concerns about the concerns that have been expressed here tonight, and that's great. The budget's already through, from what I understand. Whatever you can do, I highly encourage you to continue the discussion, but it's a little frustrating when it sounds like people spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of your personal time reviewing the budget. But in the end, from where I sit, it was a bad plan to begin with. Dr. Beck, and Ms. Black. Cutting staff seems to be the first thing that this administration does, and I do not understand why. We have programs, that's great. We have all the programs are all coming back. But without the staff members, without nurses, without secretaries, we don't have staff members to run those programs. Valuable staff members. So I'm just saying, I know this is it. I don't know what you can do, and now you have to work backwards, which requires tons of time. But in 1 month, you're going to revisit Dr. Beck's contract now? I'm sorry. I've tried really hard to be as supportive as possible, as I can, where I can. But that is, you have to know what a bad look that is right now, after everything that's been discussed. And I know it's very common practice, but typically when the board is opening up a contract early, it's based on performance. So please consider that. Just consider all of it and what we actually need moving forward, because we really can't afford to keep cutting staff members that everybody adores so that our children don't get to have them anymore. I'm getting tired of that narrative. Well, now my kids won't have XYZ, who's been in the district for however many years. It's getting old. So whatever you can do now, which I don't even know what it is, please just stop and think about what direction the actual district is going towards. And weigh in with your actual building administrators. Weigh in with the supervisors that have been here. They have been here longer than any of us.
1 minute.
They know the town. That's what we need. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Last time, I promise, Gagnon, Summit Road. I actually want to reiterate everything Jen just said. Luckily, there is a solution, and I encourage you all to revisit that. Craig, please make good on what you just asked, because you had the courage to stand up and say that. Do everything in your power. You have a lot of people, I know you can't make promises, but you have a lot of people that are listening to what you just said, valuing what you just said, so do everything in your power. Don't just speak it, walk it. One thing that I have to ask, does anyone have an update on the new facilities, some sort of a temporary plan? I appreciate looking into Excel versus Sheets. I appreciate looking into waivers, although I'm not sure how that would work. But I do appreciate it. They're solutions. So temporary solutions, permanent solutions. Have we looked at a plot of land? Do we have that land secured? How we have this evening, and there's not even a mention of that other than what Ms. Keeling mentioned, everyone wants to know. And I appreciate the fiscal responsibility. You have a referendum to pass. Do it. Thank you.
You just announce it during good of the order. You could say it. Just say it inadvertently. Please change my vote. He made a mistake.
Hi, guys. Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. It's a three-speech kind of night. It's not often you get that. I just want to comment on the way that the budget was passed tonight. I have been attending board meetings, as most of you know, for a very, very, very long time. I think save maybe 2 budget hearing meetings in the last 15 years that I've lived in Sparta, 14 and change. I have attended every single budget hearing that the board has had. Never once has it gone like it went tonight. Typically, the budget is presented by the superintendent and the business administrator, and they stand and they ask the public questions and they respond to those questions, because we're all in this together. We are the taxpayers who are funding this budget. And I gotta say, thank you to the 4 of you who did not pass this budget, because it is very, very clear to me that there were a lot of unanswered questions that should have been answered. And perhaps you have answers to those questions and we just don't know them, and it's okay for you, but it's not okay for us. We are part of this process, and to sit at the table and say, we may or may not answer your questions in a budget hearing where you're taking in $62 million from the people in this room and in this community is appalling. So I don't know how to fix that. I don't know that we can fix that at this point, but that was shocking to me. I asked very basic questions. It's a requirement for the business administrator to have the current enrollment numbers and the projected student enrollment numbers when they put the budget together. And the fact that those answers couldn't be given to us today is shocking to me.
I also, the user-friendly budget, whether it is required or not, is typically posted before this meeting. Last year, it was posted
1 minute.
before this meeting, because I sat and I looked through it. So I don't know if that's a requirement. I'm sure the legal requirement is, as you say, 48 hours after, but it makes it really hard for us to know what is going on, and we get very little information from this particular board. This one, its predecessor, we don't get a lot from you. We get very little discussion about a lot of really big questions. So it would be really helpful for us to have that. And the final thing I'll say, and I've said it at multiple meetings before, is I would really appreciate it if you spoke about what takes place in your committee meetings. It's a really important part of the community having some transparency and knowing what's going on and what you're discussing and what your thoughts are. So just running through, hey, in the personnel committee meeting, this is what we talked about. Obviously not anybody's names or anything like that, but general stuff that you're discussing so that we understand the process. Thank you.
Okay. Start.
Okay. Ryan Dumpert, 47 Angelo Drive. As I said in last meeting, I really just started paying attention to all of this, so I'm not absolutely particular as to how all of this works. I did have quite the confusion about the budget vote too, especially for somebody like Craig, and this isn't anything demeaning. I just don't understand, and maybe I'm confused, why you would vote yes, but then come out and say if there's anything we can do. Maybe there is stuff that gets done after it gets passed, and I'm confused, but I just don't know. And correct me if I am wrong. I just figured I would ask that. Also, on April 10th, the public notice was issued again for Dr. Beck to hold a public hearing on his contract. I'm not going to read the whole thing. From what I can find online, the superintendents are usually evaluated in June. So I don't know if the board has evaluated Dr. Beck. The way I look at this is just from a parent's perspective. I look at it like a business. So, I mean, are you going to evaluate somebody, or are you going to, sit them down and say, here's, the possibility of more time and more money and more something, but before an evaluation process has actually happened? I don't know. I also wonder why we would even consider giving Dr. Beck any additional time or money or anything like that when, we just laid off some really good teachers and cut hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is, when I look at this as a business, from a business perspective, that goes against, do we open contracts early and for teachers? Does that happen for teachers? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. So I don't know why we would do it here in this situation now. Thank you.
Dana Galeno, 26 Valley View Trail. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I'm not going to talk about Oprah or you, Mr. Zeddimer, but I am going to talk about some of the comments that I've just heard in the audience from people that I have felt in the past, maybe incorrectly, that we were on completely different sides. And I don't think we all are. I saw people stand up when there was support for Ms. Rossi that were standing with me that I didn't expect to stand up. And I've been screaming about the budget for years, and I see people saying things that made a lot of sense that I thought was just not somebody that I could agree with or work with. I think that this town is really strong, and I think that we're strong together. And I think that maybe not you guys, I don't know, that's up to you, right? But I think that the people back here behind me, we can probably come together and find a middle ground. And I think we can make this district and we can make this board better with what we say and what we do and sort of what we know and what we bring to the table. So I am going to friend request some people tomorrow that I wouldn't typically do that with, and I'm going to ask them if they want to join forces, because what's more important is our kids. And we might have differences on certain social issues, but right here, when we're in this room, it's for our children. Thank you.
Anybody else? If there's no one else that would like to speak,
I have a question.
fourth time's a charm.
4 times the charm. Let's just hang out a second. So I told you that my son really wanted to address you, and it's 8:50, and they are not due to be back in Sparta until 9:10 because, you know, Morristown is half an hour away. And anyway, he's on the phone. Would you be willing to listen to him on
Just
the
hold it up to
microphone
the-
on speaker? Okay. Hang on, bud. Take you there? Yep. Okay. All right, you can speak, buddy. Tell him your name first.
I'm Jake Hamilton. I'm 12 years old. And I would just like to talk about Miss V and how great of a teacher she was. She really just lightens the room every day when you come in. And, you know, when she told everyone that she's not going to be back next year, a lot of kids were crying, and including me, because we're really sad that she has to go. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
buddy. Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, it's all right.
Frida Lewis, Sparta, New Jersey. So I wasn't going to come back up here, but I feel the need to. The only thing I want to say is Juneteenth was the day that slaves were freed in America. I'm sorry that it's inconvenient to have that during the middle of exams. Actually, it would be an extra day of examination. I do not think that is a reasonable excuse to not celebrate Juneteenth, because if the 4th of July was in the middle of exams, we would be celebrating the 4th of July. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to close public session.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to good of the order. I will start. Being that the evaluation process is still ongoing and we have not finished it yet, the hearing for next month is going to be rescheduled. That's all. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got something. I do need to change my vote on 17.4. I inadvertently voted yes on something pertaining to SEF, and I do need to abstain from that due to my wife being on the
That's
SEF board.
17.4?
17.4, yes.
You could just note that in the roll call, Ms. Black.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
I just had one thing to add. I wanted to thank Mary Clark and Timothy Labrizzi for their years of service, and with next week being Teacher Appreciation Week, thank you to all of our teachers and for all that you do. You're miracle workers. You are behind the scenes doing all the hard work, and we appreciate it.
Anything else? Okay, I get a motion to adjourn.
Kurt, I just want to add something. Hold on. I just want to thank the public for really coming together and making your voices heard on the budget, and and just the process through it all. And I just wanted to voice how, the process for this budget was really, really thoughtful. It did take a lot of time. I know every effort was made to retain student programming, which to me relates to also in the classroom. That's keeping teachers in the classroom. And I just want to, just show my commitment that I would like to find, as much room as we have within this, knowing that transfers are possible. And I'm not finding the words, but I just am saying that in supporting our budget, my point is that I support our teachers, I support our classrooms, I support our programming and our students. That doesn't mean that every decision comes easily in this budget. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness in this process. I appreciate the thoughtfulness of my board members that said no. And I hope that we can continue the discussion so that we can find room to best support the programming and our staffing and everything we need in the classrooms for our district.
Motion to adjourn. Walter, second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.